Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, kids.
Hey, friends.
Mom and Dad here today. Going to sit down with the family and have a conversation.
Oh, gosh. Already, all of the knots in my stomach. Everybody out there is like, I hated family meetings.
We want to have a sobering dialogue today. Dad's going to freak out. I don't know what's going to happen. Mom and Dad are going to fall apart. What's going on?
Punishment is coming. What did I do? I didn't do it.
Nothing is safe in our world.
Totally.
Yeah. Nothing does feel really safe in our world right now.
There's a lot of upheaval.
There's a lot of upheaval, a lot of craziness going on. People don't know how to respond. And with the world with social media today, we have such quick, instant access to tweet, Instagram, Facebook, our emotions and our thoughts. We are very reactive versus responsive in our nature. And that can cause even greater fires to burn between family members and between friends and stuff like that. And we want to kind of go into a dialogue today, one that considers compassion, unity, healing, some of those processes. What Abby and I are really great at is compassion and conversations around compassion, conversations about loving one another. And that's a conversation that we want to dive in today a little bit.
Absolutely. Before we want to jump into that, though, we want to start with just part of compassion is acknowledgement and validation. And so I think this week has been really heavy for probably every human on the planet. Mm-hmm. We're actually all probably collectively feeling pain at the same time. But this week has been really heavy. And yesterday, me and Justin, we've had so many conversations this week processing what is going on. And we were able to just kind of cry together about what happened to George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the list of people that have had such deep injustice in their life. And so I'm just going to write what I wrote.
Read what you wrote?
I'm going to write it.
I'm going to write down what I wrote already. And you guys are going to listen as I silently do that.
I just wanted to write, I was going to say it again, read what I wrote, because it's been really hard for me to put into words. Gosh, I have so much emotion. There's so much emotion seeing what has happened. And having such deep compassion and pain for what is going on in the Black community. And so yesterday, as Justin and I were processing, we both cried over the horrific things that happened to George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the countless others who've been treated with such injustice. It is such a deep trauma, and our hearts have been aching for this moment in history and for all the ones that have led up to it. Trauma has to be acknowledged so that healing can happen. Our hearts are thankful to see so many people standing in agreement and acknowledgement that this isn't okay. We're loving that so many conversations are happening where people are engaging and wanting to see, hear, understand, and grow in empathy and compassion. We've been so appreciative to be able to listen, learn, and grow. Grief can bring up so many different emotions all at once. I've felt so deeply since George Floyd's death that I haven't known how to wrap words around it. I've tried to write about it every day, but words feel so inadequate. God, heal our land. Forgive us where there has been destruction, abuse, and neglect. Bring redemption, safety, and love. Laura Duncan said it so beautifully. She said, "May you be heard. May you be seen. May you be accepted. May you be valued. May you know you are enough. May you receive affection. May you be comforted. May you be protected. May you be provided for." We stand with you until every gift of love is rightfully restored back to you. With so much love, we are listening. I think...
love Laura, by the way.
Oh, yeah. She's wonderful. I think that just kind of sums up it does feel hard to put words to what's happening, except, I mean, yesterday you felt sad and angry about the injustice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I don't really have a lot that I have to add to it. I think that I've had such a mixture of emotions. I've had, initially just a lot of anger when I watched even talking about the most recent George Floyd video. I had a lot of anger that exploded because I felt so powerless observing everything. And it kind of transitioned to a place of numbness, maybe is the best word, where I was just like, yep, well, there's another unjust situation that's happened. And it went from that to me, just the other day when we were talking, me crying really hard about my sadness, getting past those things till I got to the sadness of watching humanity be so unjustly treated.
Yeah.
And watching humanity be so powerless. Like I could feel like I was able to just connect to the grief. I can't imagine what it would be like to be there with some authority figure doing that. And then just slowly that's kind of the end. So, definitely an explosion of emotions, and I don't have a lot more to say except pain, sad.
Yeah. I think, for me, it hit so many emotions at such a deep place. It took me a while I don't think I've grieved it. I'm not saying I'm through it. I'm just saying it took me a while to even get reoriented back to knowing what's going on inside of me and how to express it. And so we just want to say to all of our listeners and any people of color that we are with you. Our hearts are hurting with you. Yeah. There is so much, it breaks my heart that people don't feel safe. And that when people see this, they feel trauma, and that it hurts my heart. I know, obviously I don't know anything of what it's like to be them, but I know what trauma feels like. Yeah. And so it hurts my heart to see so many people in trauma at the same time. Totally. So, I think that there's a couple things I just wanted to read. There's probably a couple. I'm going to read several things because I think I don't really know how to do words yet around all of this. So there's several different things I've collected that I thought I could share. Ellen said this, actually. As a white person, I don't always know what to say. Right now, we have to sit in our discomfort and admit that there's a lot we don't know about Black people's lives and their experience. There's horrible injustice, and that has been ignored for far too long. Yeah. And so we just want to acknowledge it. Like we said, pain, what we've seen in pain is that acknowledgement is a huge part of the healing process. Acknowledgement and compassion. And so we just want to say we see the injustice. Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of things that we don't know about, but we do know that, pain, it always needs compassion to be healed. And part of this process is figuring out what will it look like to have the necessary compassion to heal America, to heal the pain inside of America. Yeah. And so we're not actually going to have a conversation about race because we're two white people and we don't pretend to know or be experts in that. No. But what we do know about is working through pain and connecting with one another. Yeah. And so we're watching what's happening over social media inside of all of this and realizing this year is Corona. Yep. Is presidential election coming up. Yep, which is very divisive. And then we have everything that's happening with George Floyd and all of the racial
Yep.
the racial divisions. And so we are aware, like every time I get on social media, it's war in every direction.
Yeah, complete war.
And so our hearts in this episode would be to kind of spark, we want to create an army of healers
that are willing to figure out how to participate in unifying, restoring, and redeeming things in this season, and asking the question, how can I be part of that? In small ways to bigger ways, whatever.
Absolutely. I saw this post today by Mindy Kaling. It says, some are posting on social media, some are protesting in the streets, some are donating silently, some are educating themselves, some are having tough conversations with friends and families. A revolution has many lanes. Be kind to yourself and others who are traveling in the same direction. Just keep your foot on the gas.
I like that.
I really loved it. I think it reminds us to bring humanity back, because social media is a screen, and we can often...
we can lose the faces of actual human beings. When you have a screen with one picture in the corner, it's not a real person. And half the stuff that comes out of our mouths, we would never say to a person in real life, because we can see a real human. And so this helps us restore humanity, even in our dialogues in that way, like that idea.
Yeah. And the post that went along with it was this, that my friend wrote, who's very passionate because they have gone through many racist things. In this current climate, we've had to be careful to not judge each other. And sadly, I've seen a lot of it on social media. Let me just speak my heart for a moment. Your outrage doesn't have to look like mine, and mine doesn't have to look like yours. Some people are actively, peacefully protesting in their cities. Some people are opening up their homes for tough conversations. Some are investing in youth. Some are giving to causes. Some people are supporting African American owned businesses. And not everyone feels the need to make a social media post about it. Just yesterday, while my beautiful girls were swimming, I had a conversation with several older Caucasian people about racism. And I chose to post in my story my girls swimming, not my conversation. My husband, Jermaine, and brother-in-law, who happens to be my pastor, went into our city and protested and prayed and didn't put it on their social media as they were doing it. I'm not against people putting things like that on social media. I'm simply saying that don't think because people choose not to that they aren't actively involved, and don't be quick to judge the lives of the people you don't know. I've seen a lot of things be a photo op and the heart posture behind it be lackluster. I've watched people speak who've only done so because they had to make a statement regarding it. I'm not about that. I'm about change, lasting change, and being so present in my life that sometimes I forget to share with you that I'm living it. I'm not doing it for the gram or for likes on Facebook. I'm not trying to be trending. I'm trying to be like Jesus. And frankly, the people around Jesus are the ones that spread and told others what he was doing.
It was a really good post.
Yeah, I loved what she had to say, because I just think really the heart of it, again, I'm not even making this post about race, even though it was for her. The heart I heard behind it was, let's actually remember there's humans who are living full lives beyond just what they're posting on Instagram, who have so much more depth to what's going on in their conversations and their interactions.
Yeah.
I know for me, I haven't posted any of the conversations I've had about this subject, but I'm having them. Yeah. I haven't posted the tears I've cried or the anger I've felt or the things I've done to support, because the goal is actually for me to learn to grow as a human. And so if social media is just about presenting, I don't want it to be just that.
Yeah, I agree.
So we want to just talk about social media etiquette.
Yeah, because if we're going to be able to keep the ship afloat, that is America, that is our homes. Again, I know that there are homes that are going into deep division over so much right now. From Corona, it was about a virus that people were sick with, and that turned into homes getting divided and fires being set ablaze alone. That was just Corona. And now we have a real heavy topic, which is racism. And next is going to be just that boulder, which is going to be our presidential election. And so we get to decide in this moment of history, will we be part of tearing down our own homes, or will we be part of rebuilding them?
Yes. One of the things I just so agree is I want to learn how to be love.
Yeah.
That's kind of been our heart posture. And love doesn't always know what it's doing.
Love doesn't have rules, first and foremost.
Which is frustrating.
Because it's like, well, just tell me exactly what I should do that will be love. And for every person in every moment, there's different instances of like love is being quiet in moments. Love is being kind and just listening. Sometimes love is actually actively saying something and challenging something. But there is no clear this is right or this is wrong. There is just this gray matter that demands that we connect to ourselves. Though it demands that we be connected to a higher source, because in my logic, in my triggers, I can't be the fullness of love unless I transcend the brokenness inside of my humanity and start asking the bigger questions, which is, Papa, how do I be love in this moment? What is your heart for this person, this exchange, this conversation?
Yeah. I think that's so good. I remember in our first year of marriage, we were trying love.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was our heart. Everything you just described is like, that was our mission. It was our core value. We want to learn how to love. And we just had explosions.
One after another.
Because we were trying to love the best we could, and we were triggered, and we were humans, and we were a mess. And so, it is tricky to figure out how to learn to love.
Especially, this kind of ran through my head. I thought about when I would try to love you really well, and then none of it worked. It couldn't make you happy. You weren't able to forgive in a moment. Then I would explode even bigger. So now the opposite of love. I can't win with you. I hate you so much.
And I was like, wait a second. Now it really doesn't feel like love, because you just turned on me.
You just got so angry at me.
Yes. This is not love, Jess. This is not love.
And that's the thing that I want to say, is that in this process of trying to figure out how to be love in a time of life right now, it can become infuriating, where it ends up pushing all the deepest powerlessness buttons that we have as humans, where we're expecting that my love will make you feel better or make you change. And then when it doesn't, now all of a sudden I go, my give a damn's busted. I quit. Now I'm angry. Now I'm going to explode. What is wrong with you? I'm trying so hard. And that's something that I think that we have to really look at as we approach all of this.
Yeah. I know a lot of the things I've seen in posts, I'm really trying to work on recognizing, like thinking, this person is in pain on the other side of this post. Whatever fact they're yelling, whatever opinion they're shouting, if they're saying, you're an idiot, because that happened. I mean, the internet is one big giant trigger.
Giant cesspool.
Cesspool of triggers.
Of emotions.
Trigger. And this is
true.
I feel like this is so normal. I teach this in emotional health, that when one person triggers, it almost always triggers another person, because our brains are looking for how to protect us. And so they're looking for anything that's similar to anything that we've experienced in the past that have hurt us, so that it can put us on alert. And so most of the times we've been betrayed, hurt, yelled at, punished, abandoned. Most of the times we experienced a lot of pain. Somebody was triggered on the other side of that. Totally. So now our brains are wired, when we feel someone triggering, for us to automatically have our protective shields come up, to have we go into fight or flight. And it can be so minimal that people don't even notice it. They don't even notice they have just a little bit of anxiety. They don't even notice that they get aggressive on the inside, or that, there's the 4 different ways we respond in trauma: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so we are reacting typically when I read a post, even if I don't care about what the post is about.
Right.
But they're really opinionated in how they're saying it, or they're really triggered and they're going after people, or, it has nothing to do with me maybe. And I can feel their trigger, and then I am now in a triggered state. And so when we're triggered, our relationship circuits turn off.
Yep.
and we go into self-protection.
Yep.
And so self-protection is much more about survival, and I need to get you to understand what I'm saying, or I need to tell you that you're wrong, or you can't punish me, whatever it is. And so most people aren't taking the time. I was kind of joking about this with my friend. I work with people who have issues with food sometimes.
Yeah.
And so the first step that I work on is like, let's slow down. Before you eat, I just want you to think before you eat. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Check in on yourself so that you're not just eating a ton of food to fill all of your feelings up, so that you're not just grabbing something to shove your emotions down.
Totally.
Like, let's check in and have some self-awareness. Yeah. Well, that's something I think that is missing in the social media world, where there isn't an awareness once we get triggered. We just think, because what happens is we have confirmation bias as soon as we get triggered. Confirmation bias is that we now are looking for evidence to prove what we already believe to be true.
That our feelings are right. Yeah.
That our feelings are right. So when we get on social media, we're not looking for how can I learn and grow and become a more whole person.
No.
We're actually like looking at how do I prove what I already believe to be true. And when you don't believe it to be true, I'm going to prove that you're an idiot.
And then it's devolved into the middle finger emoji.
Yes. And really what happens is, once we're triggered, the relational side of our brain shuts down.
Yep.
And the relational side of our brain is the part of us that is made to believe the best about people.
Yeah.
To see humanity in people, to have compassion for people. The relational circuits in our brain, we need them to function in a healing, healthy way.
Yeah, totally. I think that even in the idea of the social media etiquette part of the conversation inside of this, everybody get ready to take an adult time out when you feel really strong emotions, because there are some legitimate things that are happening in the world right now that are worthy of some strong emotions. They're scary, they're overwhelming, they're real, but there's a difference between responses and reactions.
Yes.
And my reaction, when I operate out of reaction, it veers into foolishness, because what it does is it doesn't build bridges. It actually burns them.
Yes.
And it doesn't actually help us to be heard. Like when Abby and I are in a triggered state and we start into reaction mode, we don't build any bridges in that. And if we weren't married, we would never talk again over some of the stuff that's happened.
Yes.
And ultimately, love isn't fostered in the place of reaction ever. There's no space for love to be fostered. It's only in response, and response can only happen when we're willing to self-manage. And self-management just starts with, what is going on inside of me that I'm having such strong emotions? Because even if I prove that this person is an idiot on the internet, as I want to prove to them that they're an idiot or they're bad, will that resolve and heal what's inside of me? And it won't, because it can't. No, like convincing someone that I'm right will not heal me anyways. Even if I convince them they're an idiot and convince them that they're bad and convince them that I am right and they're like, yes, on all those things, it still didn't heal the thing that provoked me into reaction, that took me out of a peace response, that took me out of a kindness and love response, and threw me spinning out of control.
I absolutely agree with everything you said except one thing, which was, you're like, when we find ourselves having big reactions, we need to step back. And I would actually just further that and say, when we find ourselves having medium reactions or even small reactions, like we need to catch our triggers early. And so Pizzi is brilliant at teaching about this. And she says that whenever escalation, is that how you say the word?
Escalation.
I can't talk. Whenever escalation happens, then you need to walk away before that. Like the goal is to walk away before escalation, because once escalation happens, you know for sure you're not in your relational brain. And so in marriage, now I posted about this probably last week or the week before, because we were in the middle of working together, and I could feel my frustration mounting.
Right.
And so, like, half of my frustration had nothing to do with you. It's just, we're in this hard circumstance, right?
Yeah.
We are working on a project and our brains work the opposite directions.
Yes, they do.
And I am dyslexic. And so I'm like, I just have stress I'm trying so hard. You're trying so hard. And so we're like, both our intentions are good. But I know if I stay in the room, even if you're trying your best, I'm going to either misperceive you or I'm going to snap back and I'm going to go after you. And I know that's not going to help our relationship.
It's just going to further burn this mother to the ground.
Yeah. And so I was like, I need to go, and I put myself in a timeout.
Yeah.
And I went, and I had to self-nurture and talk to my heart and validate, like, it's okay, and talk myself down. And Pete always says you have to walk away from a trigger for at least 3 minutes, at least. Now, my timeout took me 30 because that's how bad I was that day.
Yeah, I think you said I'll be back in 3 minutes or something, and I came over and I was like, hey, it's been 30. What are you doing?
I'm trying though so hard. It's just taking a while to come down. My cortisol levels were spiking. And so what I'm saying is we need to be able to walk away from conversations on social media.
Yeah.
From posts on social media. Do you know how many times you see an outrageous post and you just react and you send it back off? And then you know what? That reaction is not from your core authentic place.
Yeah. And I want to add this to it. I had a friend the other day talking to me, and he saw a post go on social media that provoked him, and he felt himself wanting to write the person on the main thread some strong responses. But the beautiful thing is that he stopped and he went and messaged the person, which was a great first step. He was like, hey, could we maybe have a talk in person? I feel like some strong emotions about this. I think that there's something off in how you're seeing this, which I was just huge accolades to at least that much control. But I said, basically, do you understand that there's a level of wasting your time and energy right now? And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, no, I think it's beautiful that you'd want to have a conversation rather than a throwing mud.
Yeah.
But I said, this isn't about what they said. Well, no matter what you could perceive, it could be the dumbest thing ever, or it could be mild, or it could be whatever, who knows? But whatever your emotions are about this is about the bigger thing inside of you. And I start dialoguing about certain family dynamics with them. And it turned into a very heartfelt conversation between him and I, where he felt some strong emotions in a beautiful way. And he was able to say, oh, I see.
I can grieve. This is about my
grieve.
childhood.
This is really about my childhood and my relationship to family and some dynamics that are happening there. And that was beautiful breakthrough. That turned into solutions. That turned into healing. That turned into... So when there is the chaos that is about us right now, all around us in America, we can either use this to just further, not just deteriorate our relationships, but also deteriorate our own self in further anxieties and further brokenness, or we can actually use it as a liberation moment. And we go, what is this provoking inside of me? Where am I feeling powerless in my own life about injustices or problems in other situations or whatever it is, and how can I heal and how can I process that instead of adding more fuel to the fire? And then when I do come to the table with whatever it is, if it's Corona, I get to come to the table and have a conversation if I want to in social media in a way that's like kind, gentle, and here's my response. Here's my patient response in this.
And I would like to say me and Justin are not perfect. We have definitely reacted on social media.
Let me tell on myself. I have spent a lot of years trying to learn how to get out of my triggers on social media. I have set way less fires myself in the last 5 to 8 years than I did in previous history. And I'm lucky that in my early 20s, I didn't have access to social media.
Totally.
I would have burned my future political career, or whatever you want it to be, completely to the ground because I had no filter.
Right.
And I didn't know that things were about me. And so I am progressively growing and I am progressively learning how to ask the question, what is going on inside of me in this? And how do I not vilify this person? Because that's the other component. When we are dehumanizing people on the internet right now and becoming reactive, we are creating villains, and we're watching battle lines on all kinds of levels, political, relational, social, whatever it is. Tribalism is exploding, and pretty soon there's just everyone is in this lonely separation place.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have to go, these people in this moment are not a villain.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to sit and vilify all these people because they're processing a certain way. I want to see their humanity. I want to see the beauty of who they are. And like Abby said just a little bit earlier, what is the pain going on inside of them? Or what are they working through? Or what are all the things that are happening behind the lines that aren't on this stupid thing we call social media?
Yes, absolutely. I had, there's a post I saw the other day that like pushed my buttons, and I was like, I don't understand why this person would post this. And so I actually just messaged them, but I wasn't super triggered. I was like literally confused. I was like, I don't understand why you'd post this. It doesn't feel helpful to me. But I didn't say that. I just said, hey, I actually don't know what I said, but I said something like, hey, help me understand your heart behind posting this.
Right.
I'm curious. And the truth is, her heart behind posting was pretty good. And I was like, okay, I can understand that. Like, I probably wouldn't post it, but I don't feel like you're being an idiot. Like, I can see where you're coming from. And empathy is our ability to get into other people's shoes, to be able to see where they're coming from. Now, I had enough relationship with her to do that. I wouldn't have done that necessarily with a stranger.
Yeah.
But it's that idea of, right now in culture, there's this polarizing thing of you're good or you're bad. And it's so funny because shame is such a huge topic right now. Like, there's so many anti-shame people and books and it's like a hot topic. And I love that because I actually think shame is so detrimental and horrifying to your soul and tormenting. But one of the things that I've seen is social media is making like whatever you post is who you are.
Right.
If you post this thought, that means you believe this, and that means you're a horrible person. If you post this, it means you're this and you're a horrible person. If you post this, it means you're this and you're a horrible person.
Right.
And so there's a couple things that go on with that. Now there's lots of fear people have about saying anything.
Yeah.
Because like if I say the wrong thing, people are going to label me forever in the wrong category.
Which, what you say, label. There is a monster of judgment that is the driving force behind so much of the destruction that's happening at a social media level and in relationships when dialogues are happening. Because this monster of judgment, again, goes and says, we're going to dehumanize the human soul, the human being. We're going to strip them down to
make them one-dimensional. They have one belief. That's all that it is.
Yep. And as long as we're going to partner with judgment, we will never be able to partner with the fullness of love, the fullness of compassion, because love and compassion, the source of them is not shame and it is not judgment.
Yeah.
It is seeking to understand. It is seeing the humanity inside of people. It is empathizing.
Well, so I think it's important to help people like recognize some triggers. A couple triggers I see is when you feel powerless. Typically, when you go after demeaning somebody or telling them that they like all the reasons why they're horrible, really it's that we want to feel powerful. Listen, we have been guilty of
Guilty
this.
as charged, 1000%.
I remember when I found my mom she'd overdosed, passed out in a pile of trash in her hoarder home a couple of years ago. And it was very traumatic. Had to call the ambulance. She died.
There was so much pain happening.
Yes. She died, came back, her body was twitching for like a couple of days. We didn't know how much brain damage she was going to have. It was just very painful. So what we did during that process is we decided to clean out the hoarder house, because I was like, listen, there's drugs laying around that she can find in this house because of this.
And she couldn't, like, if she walked that house again and just fell over, she could die just from falling over again.
Yeah, totally. And she was falling over all the time because of this stuff. So we go through and we clean out the entire house. And I made a post about it, and somebody went after that we weren't recycling enough stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were throwing away stuff.
Yeah. Someone got very aggressive, and it was very condescending, the way that it felt communicated.
Yeah. So Justin, in a very protective justice moment, went after them.
I would say I just said, hey, do you understand that you come across as very condescending and you're not actually seeking to understand? You don't have any idea the context for anything that's happening, to which they were really pissed that I challenged them on that. But
there was a little, it ended up becoming a jabby back and forth.
It did. And then I deleted them completely and blocked them from your Instagram, because I was like, our whole world is burning down right now. Your mom just about died, and I just can't even take it.
Right. Totally. My whole point is, it's moments like that where it's like, I feel so powerless. There's so much going on inside of me. We're going to have this dialogue.
Yep.
And it was never about how they responded. And it was never about, and for her, here's the truth. She was probably, my post wasn't even the thing she was probably upset about.
No. And, even in that, there it was. I was like feeling powerless to someone's judgment. And then I became reactionary instead of just being like, oh, here, look, delete. All right, let's just move on with this terrible situation that's so crippling.
Right. Or write a kind response like, this feels really hurtful because I'm going through so much. Something like just more of a diffuser comment. I'm not saying you did bad. I felt very loved that you wanted to defend me.
Justin still on this side of this conversation is like, I did a pretty nice post. It was just direct, and people couldn't handle me being very direct.
That's funny. So my point is the idea that, like, if you're like, I told them off, that feeling, you can know you were in a triggered state.
Yeah.
If you feel like, I have to make them see my point of view, then that means you're feeling powerless.
Yep.
And so many of us had traumas in our childhood and pain. And actually, I was reading, Obama made a post today, and he was talking about how there is so much on edge right now with the pandemic, us being alone and afraid, and then the racism stuff and the election. Like, he was talking about, there's so much emotional. You've got to understand, mental health was at an all-time low before this last wave of racism came up.
We don't even have the capacity to cope right now after what
everybody's
happened with
at the
COVID,
end of their rope. Everybody's processing, what is the world going to look like? Will I have a job?
I've lost my job. I'm losing money.
Where am I going to live? Yeah. Like, so many people I have to do everything at home. I'm homeschooling my kid. Like, everybody's at their max.
Yeah, it feels really scary.
Then you throw a trauma in.
Yep.
Now everybody didn't have rope to process, but we're having to process anyway.
Yeah.
And so what I'm looking at is, everybody who's reacting is maybe not taking account and validating what is really going on inside of them. And validation is such an important part of healing.
Yeah.
Like, of course you're feeling a lot. Of course this feels overwhelming. And if I can't interact relationally with people over social media, then I need to take a time out.
Yeah.
Until I can get my relationship circuits back on. And one of the things that Pizzi says about getting your relationship circuits back on is, they're back on when you can have empathy and believe the best about someone.
Yep.
So empathy is, I have the ability to think about, where are you coming from?
Yeah.
What does it feel like to be you? Because I mean, like, we have strong opinions about politics.
Yeah.
As everybody does.
Yeah.
And we try to keep politics out of our podcast because that's not what we are geniuses at.
No.
We're definitely geniuses at connection. We're geniuses who screw up all the freaking time.
Yeah.
If geniuses are people who haven't figured it out, then we are those.
That's us.
But so she says the ability to get an empathy. So if I don't have the capacity to think, how could someone, like this other person has this idea that is completely different than me. Where could that, like, that is a human belief. They're not stupid for that. They have a life circumstance that has got them to that place. They have fears, they have pain, they have vision, they have hope. Like, because I honestly look at, and this is just a side note, the politics, and I believe a bipartisan government is the best case scenario. And I wish we could get back to enjoying that there's two views.
And enjoying that they help provoke each other to become better.
Yes.
There's challenge and there's iron sharpening iron and going, hey, we have to challenge one another so that we can be the best version of ourselves possible.
There's studies out there that governments with at least two parties have a higher chance of now I'm going to butcher what it says, but it's basically of creating a government that's good for the people because there's always innovation of having to grow. And I'm sad that now we are opposed. Everything is opposition. Like you're evil, you're wrong. If the world,
it's not about growing it. It's about there is only one right side instead of like, oh no, there's a value for another side of this. I want to hear what they're saying. Let's seek to understand because this is good for us to think about how we're approaching ourselves.
Yeah. And I've actually seen and I don't want to give the examples now, but there's been several examples over the years where you see like Democrats do one thing that's really good. Republicans challenge a part that was missing and add to it. Democrats then add to that. Like, and it could start with Republicans and Democrats. It's just the idea that they're taking the gift that the other party did and they're seeing blind spots and able to make it more valuable. And so there is a fundamental idea, and I'm talking about this trigger. We like to feel right because it feels like we're secure. If I'm
right, if my way is right, I feel safe.
And if the majority of people believe with me, I feel safe.
Yeah.
And so what I'm looking at is my goal is not that we all believe the same thing. And I think a lot of people believe that. If everyone was Republican and we could just vote in everybody Republican, then our da-da-da-da-da would happen. If everybody was a Democrat, then this would happen.
Totally.
Like we honestly think when we get it divided that if everyone was like us, then safety, which is literally the opposite of diversity.
Yep. And it's the opposite of freedom, is because love is founded in freedom. The foundation of love is free will, choice, and having diversity creates love because I don't have to, like, it's easy to love someone who is 1000% reflecting all of my ideals, my feelings, my perspectives. Yep. We're on the same page. I like you and I love you.
Yes.
So love doesn't exist in an atmosphere where we're all the same, like-minded. Love exists in a place where we can challenge each other in beliefs and disagree, yet see the beauty of who the individuals are behind the beliefs and be thankful for who they are.
Yeah. I know...
Even in the midst of destructive ideologies, there are ideologies that I see that yield great destruction. But even in the ability for someone to have a differing point of view that I think is destructive, my ability to even take that moment and go, yeah, but what's the beauty? Where's the humanity? Who's the person behind all this? Love gives me an invitation to discovering the person behind the destructive nature.
And because humans are so nuanced, right? That we're not one dimensional. And this is one of the triggers that I see happening over social media is somebody says something and then they are automatically put in that category or put in that. And like, I know so many people who hold multiple beliefs at the same time. I hold multiple beliefs about like what ice cream I want in one decision. Oh, I want chocolate and vanilla. Oh, I want swirl. Like we, as humans, there's so much nuance and there's so many things that we can be holding value for at the same time. And the internet makes it where whatever value you've communicated, that fully defines everything that is inside of you.
Yep. And so there's a moment of time right now where there's the invitation to love, and there's an invitation to grace like no other, that we would posture ourselves to have grace. Grace is an investigative heart, a heart to understand. Grace is going, I don't know why they said that. I don't know the fullness of who they are, whether it's on social media or it's in family functions, and going, I don't know. Well, my dad said something that felt really offensive because it comes from another generation, and I disagree. And maybe I'm wrong in how I'm taking it as a younger person. I don't know, but I'm going to cover this in grace and seek to understand more of why did you come to that conclusion? What's provoking you? What's going on inside of your heart in that space? I'm using a dad. It could be a mom, a sister, a brother, a child. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But what does matter is the element of grace in this season. If we can tether ourselves to grace, not only will we find healing, but we'll find reconnection, restoration. Something beautiful can bloom out of something that feels really destructive of what's happening right now.
I had a friend the other day just decide to cut a bunch of people out of her life because she didn't like how they were posting. Now, I do want to clarify, they were not posting racist comments. So it's not like a belittling thing that it's okay to set boundaries with people who are being cruel on the internet. Like, I think that's super important to say, but that was not the case. She just cut out a bunch of people because they didn't agree with what she believed in a certain area. And I've recognized that we never have influence over people we don't have a relationship with.
We never have influence over people we don't love.
Yeah. And so looking at it being like, okay, I care more about connection with people.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a part of us that comes back to humility. I am a human. You are a human. There is common humanity we share. Yeah. Whether or not we share the same beliefs about this, we both have gone through pain. We both have gone through trauma. We've both been rejected. We've both been abandoned. We both have loved. We both have lost. We both want to get our needs met. We both want to feel secure. We both want to feel wanted. Yeah. Like, there are so many core common human things inside of us. And if we can come back to the place of seeing humans and actually checking in on them. Maybe somebody writes a post that I'm actually really pissed off about.
Right.
And instead of responding, I actually just message them and like, hey, how are you? And I don't even talk about the post.
Right. How are you? Just checking in on you. Want you to know I care.
Yeah, totally. Are you good?
Yeah.
It's a world. It's a different kind of world. And here's the truth. I think writing truth is valuable.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying never post.
Yeah.
But I do try to hold my tongue if I know that I'm triggered.
Yeah.
Like, I want to respond. Now, I don't do it perfectly. And people will start watching my social media and they'll see me like mess up one time. And I'm saying I'm a mess. I'm a work in progress too.
Yeah.
But I want to I'd rather be silent in certain circumstances than add hate and fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
I want to learn how to bring love. And I think having a voice for love, and sometimes it takes me a while to figure out what love sounds like in circumstances.
Yeah. One of the things that love is patient. And love is kind. Mm-hmm. And going back to this concept of patience, like when it comes to our world that feels like it's been set on fire, our first response with love should be patience. How do I get patient with this situation? How do I get connected to wisdom? How do I ask the right questions? How do I investigate? How do I not be reactive? But patience has to be a foundation. If we're going to love well, it has to be patience. Patience with ourselves when we make the messes. Mm-hmm. Like Abby just said, like I can't guarantee that I'm not going to say something stupid 3 weeks from now to somebody and go, ugh,
yeah,
that is not the message of who I am. That is not like what love is. I need to grow in this area. Okay, I'm going to have patience with myself. I was triggered. I have a lot on me. I didn't handle that well. I probably should go apologize. All right, I'm going to have patience and not be harsh on myself. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to forgive the people who responded. There's some of you that have said stuff and you've been barraged by people who have been abusive, judgmental, harsh. And some of what you get to do is you get to step in this situation and go, my response right now is to forgive every person who's in a triggered state, who's responding to me in harsh ways because I said something and they don't get what I'm trying to say. I'm going to forgive them. I'm not going to unfriend them. I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to make note of some of these people that I know are in my relational circle, and I'm going to reach out to them later to check in on them, to let them know I care about them. I am going to be a response versus a reaction.
Yes. It's so good. It takes a lot of discipline, self-discipline, and self-awareness to do what we're saying. I was thinking about, there's a tangible energy to anger and fighting, and there's like a momentum. And I've seen it because I've seen it before. Like
snowball, you mean?
Yeah, there's a snowball. There's topics that I don't even care about, but it's like the drama sucks you in. Right. So you're like, this person says this, and then you go through and you read the feed and everybody going back and forth, and you're like, I don't even care about this, but now I've been sucked into this.
I had that on a feed the other day.
About G.I. Joes.
Oh, I don't know. It was in some feed where I didn't even care about the subject, but I saw the fire and I'm like, oh, what's happening here? I'm going to go watch the fire. What am I going to do?
It's like wanting to watch a train wreck.
And then I'm like, well, I should be part of the fire department on this to put this out. But then I was like, I wrote the post. I'm like, I'm not a I'm not a fireman. I'm actually like throwing gasoline on this if I post this. And then I got rid of it. I'm like, walking away. The subject doesn't even matter. I have a life that needs to go be fully lived.
Yes. And it's funny because, like, honestly, and I say this from experience, sometimes the things I've chosen to post about are not even the hill I want to die on.
Yeah.
It just somehow hooked me.
Yeah.
And I think people need to be aware. Social media has hooks. Yeah. You can just be walking around and all of a sudden you are hooked business into a fight you didn't even know. And what I wanted to say, we talked about feelers recently. Shout out to you guys. You have to know this week is crazy for any feeler because we were already at our max, and then so much trauma collectively over the planet happened at once. But if you're a feeler, or if you're not a feeler, you can just get that anger momentum thing that tugs you in where you're not even aware. Like, I found myself swept up for an hour and not even aware. Like, I didn't even make a conscious choice for that.
Yeah.
And so we're wanting to, again, social media is designed to be polarizing. Yeah. That's how you get more clicks. It's how you get more comments. Even the fights get more comments.
Yeah, because it also creates an algorithm that all of a sudden it gets seen more.
Yes, and I've watched some documentaries where social media really creates a divisive culture because of the algorithm. And so I think we just need to be aware what the goal of social media can do.
And now, social media to the side, the question becomes, who am I going to be in this season? And when we can get vision for that, if it's, I want to be kindness, I want to become patience, I want to become an expression of love. Like, when we can get the vision, then that will start dictating our response. And so that's a call in this conversation. What is your vision for who you are going to be, whether it's social media, whether it's in relationship conversations, whether it's at the grocery store and you overhear someone talking something that you disagree with? Who am I going to be in this season? I think with part of the topic that we started this conversation out, especially around George Floyd and injustices that have happened around the Black community. There are some of you that have Black friends, and you get to reach out on social media and go, I just want you to know I love you.
Yeah.
I'm not even here to have an opinion one way or another. I just know that there's pain in the Black community currently right now. I see an unjust thing that I just watched on the internet, and there's more of them that I've seen. I don't know how to respond or react except for I just want to love you.
Yeah.
Can I love you? is there a way I can love you?
Yeah.
And we can begin to everything that wants to divide, we can break the back of the monster that wants to divide us as people when we start, again, humanizing each other and finding ways in moments like this to go, where do I reach out at to love well?
Yeah. I was thinking even about the topic of racism and how many people, I don't think people recognize like when they need to go into, well, did this happen or did this happen? Well, is this true or is this true? And when they start debating like facts or ideas around it, well, is this right that they're doing this or is this right that they're doing that? And I'm like, we've already missed all of it.
Right.
If we are about debating and
checking each other
instead of being like, there is pain happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's like one of our kids, and I know that most people aren't comfortable with pain, and that's why we do this. We'd rather blame things than sit in the pain
or clarify
with people.
Facts in some way, shape, or form to end the conversation.
So we don't have to feel the pain.
No, facts. You good?
Yeah.
We good. All right.
Instead of actually just being like, there is real pain. And I'll end with this. Oftentimes our parents didn't know what to do with our emotions. So when we felt pain, they just tried to fix it.
Yeah.
They tried to shove it inside or get over it, or here's why your pain doesn't make sense, or here's why it's not logical, or here's why da 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 da. And so we've actually learned as humans that when people are in pain, that's why lots of people say horrible, like I have so many friends who've like been at a funeral for their parent or their spouse, and people say the worst things. Like at a funeral, it'll be like, you know that God has another spouse for you. But it's because the idea is, I don't want you to be in pain.
And I don't want to have to feel the pain of this.
And so I want to fix it for you, but it adds pain to it. And so if we could just take time to sit in the discomfort and the pain with people, and not, because I see so much of the ideas that we are bad, the battles over what has been happening is really about people disconnecting from the pain.
Yep. And this is the last I'll say. There is another coming war here in 2020, which is the presidency.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, everyone who's listening to us, that is going to turn into a giant firebomb as well. And again, if we can prepare those that listen on our show, like if we can prepare you to begin to process into becoming compassion, love, and care, you can begin in the journey to go, I will not engage the coming war that's about to happen in the way that everyone else does.
I will engage it, but I will not engage in a different way.
In that way any longer. I will not be part of throwing more gasoline on a fire. I will look for avenues for love, compassion, and truth that actually build bridges instead of tear them down.
If you want to see change, you have to operate in the opposite spirit.
Yeah.
And so it can't be, I'm going to fight your anger with my anger. It can't be, I'm going to fight your statistics with my facts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've tried to hold space in this moment to acknowledge that there is really real pain happening.
Yeah.
And we just want to again say that we see it. It's real. We acknowledge how painful it is. And we're not trying to rush you over getting through this process. We just want to release compassion over everybody who's listening. And so I'm just going to read these words one last time from Laura. So I just wanted to read these words one last time as we end. May you be heard. May you be seen. May you be accepted. May you be valued. May you know you are enough. May you receive affection. May you be comforted. May you be protected. May you be provided for. We stand with you until every gift of love is rightfully restored back to you. With so much love, we are listening.